Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Illustration Department podcast. My name is Giuseppe Castellano. In this podcast, I talk to folks in illustration, graphic design, publishing, animation, and other creative fields about their work, the lessons they've learned, and the bumps and bruises they've experienced along the way. Every 4 weeks, I am sharing an episode from the archive. Here's my chat with Michael Dante DiMartino, which was originally published in February of 2025. I hope you enjoy it. We met, if my memory serves, in 2005 or 6 at Nickelodeon's offices at 1515 Broadway. At the time, I was a young art director at Simon & Schuster. I was in charge of the publishing program and line look for Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Oh,
yeah.
Wild.
Yeah.
Crazy.
I don't remember much about that meeting. What I do remember is we're sitting in this room. You know, Manhattan is below us and behind us because we're up at like the 50th floor or whatever at Nickelodeon's like crazy decked out offices. Yeah. And you and Brian are up front. You're presenting this like new show that you guys are working on, and you're helping my design team, our design team, wrap our heads around the show so that when we design the books, they'll align more with the show, obviously. That was 20 years ago, by the way, just cool. FYI.
Yeah, Michael. I mean, I remember going to New York and doing meetings like that. I don't remember that specific one, but that's cool that we crossed paths before.
Feelings are hurt. Don't worry about it. Yeah, the two program, like I designed a lot of Avatar books back in that day, but the two big ones, like the two big series that I was in charge of were the Earth Kingdom Chronicles, series of chapter books, and then the Lost Scrolls. It was a lot of fun. Yeah, you know what's funny? I think they redid something with those and like repackaged them and like republished them recently. Because we've done like tons of publishing stuff since then. Yeah, I can imagine. Obviously, so I know we're not here to talk about that. We'd be here all day.
Yeah.
Did you and Brian approve our books, or was that all Nickelodeon responsibility?
We'd see some consumer product stuff, but not much. So that was probably more Nickelodeon stuff. Now I'm more involved in like the publishing side of things, and we try to see as much as we can.
Yeah, but that's got to be overwhelming.
But back then we were working on the show, and we didn't really have as much time to do that kind of stuff.
It would have blown my mind. I would have just been like, I can't believe I'm approving this plushie of Appa, you know. It's like and it's serious too. There's like a routing form or something. You have to like make notes, tell the licensee, hey, you can't do that. Or you can do this.
There's a lot of that.
Yep. Speaking of books, I'm not the target audience for your novel, Both Here and Gone, which was self-published in May of 2024. I did enjoy it though. I probably wasn't the guy you were thinking of when you were writing it.
Not exactly, but you're not the first grown man to say that he enjoyed it and it connected with him. I mean, that's my hope. It is slightly more like YA, like a little bit older, right, for older kid audience. But yeah, I mean,
myself a young adult.
Yeah, and all the adults who have read it have really connected with it. I mean, I think the stuff I try to write about is like universal things anyway. So it's, it's mostly about grief and loss and uncertainty and struggling with how to cope with that through a younger protagonist. But obviously we all deal with that every day of our lives.
Seriously. As I was reading it, I kept thinking, I wonder how Michael was tapping into the voice of Jack. So for folks listening, Jack is this 14-year-old. He moves through a gauntlet of loss and grief and denial and anger and self-discovery later. And it's sort of brought upon by this convergence of like his father leaves, his mom is selling his house, his relationship with his mother is very contentious. And then there's his friend Alyssa. She wants answers after she comes out of this coma, which was brought on by a mysterious accident. And so there's a lot of like moving parts. And as I was reading through this, I kept asking myself, like, how did Michael tap into the voice of Jack? Because he's a little bit of a jerk. He makes some decisions that I'm just sitting here reading it going like, why would you say that? Why would you do that? But he's hurt. I guess hurt people. So how did you tap into that voice? Because it wasn't like you writing it. It was Jack talking it out to me.
Part of it was doing it as a purely first person narrative. So like the other stuff I've written, I wrote some middle grade fantasy novels. Those were more like third person, written in the third person. Obviously on TV, it's a much more like kind of omniscient point of view where you're seeing it from the outside. But I found just for my own like personal writing, like when I can tell it from like the eye perspective, it gets a lot more emotional and personal, I think. Yeah, part of it is honestly just I don't know, and it's just like my natural sensibility comes out, and then part of it is deliberate choices of like I knew this was going to be, a young teenager, so he's not, his
the vocabulary is not up there.
Yeah, his brain is not fully developed yet. He's going to do stuff that maybe an adult in this similar situation would not do. Yeah. And just trying to tap into that, my own younger self who was like questioning everything, my teenager self who was, I never experienced anything quite like that, but I was always questioning things and wondering what is this world all about? What's going on? Why are we doing the things we're doing?
I guess I was not a deep thinker as a teenager because everyone else says that's what they were doing when they were a teenager. I wasn't doing any of that when I was a teenager. I was just kind of like going to school, coming home, doing chores that my parents asked me to do, and went to school, came home. It was the pacing really, I think, of your sentence structure as he's describing things. There were times when it was how I have 14-year-old daughters, and it would be like how they would describe when they come home. They, what did you do at school? Okay, so here's what happened. This happened, and then this happened, and then this happened. And it's all very descriptive, shorter sentences, and not a whole lot of editing. And that feels as if that's what Jack's voice was. He would say, or you would say through Jack, I sat on my bed. It was uncomfortable. Mom was outside. She was cleaning. I didn't want to clean. You know what I mean? It wasn't this like elegantly structured sentence. And so was that something that you found hard to slide in and out of? Or again, was that just sort of a natural, or is that just how you write? You just write like a 14-year-old? Just kidding.
That's possible. No, I think part of that too is one kind of like, I guess, writing tip I came across in the past few years is the idea of like narrative device. So like even beyond just you're choosing, first person or third person,
right? It's
like, who's telling the story? When are they telling it? To whom are they telling it? Why are they telling it? Like you kind of ask yourself, it's not stuff that necessarily ends up on the page. When I'd go back and revise stuff, I'm like, if something sounded maybe too formal or, too adult sounding, I'd remind myself, like kind of in the back of my mind, like Jack was telling the story. He's still telling it as a teenager. Like he's kind of telling the story maybe a year or two after the events of the story. So it's not like in a lot of, it's a very much a coming of age type story.
Right.
And so I looked at a lot of those, you have like Catcher in the Rye, which is like one of the strongest literary first person voices that's ever been out there. And then you have more like, I guess I would call them like adult coming of age stories where it is about a kid and it's about their experiences growing up, but it's being told from an adult perspective. Like 20 years on, you're reflecting on my childhood and, like Charles Dickens, like David Copperfield or something like that.
Like Stand By Me would be a good example of that.
Yeah, totally. Since it was intended to be YA, like I was like, I want the teenager, I want it to not be like the old guy reflecting on, I did this thing when I was a teenager. Right. So in the back of my mind, I was always thinking like, oh, he's telling this to like some new kid in town that he's just met over lunch at school or something. It's a balance though, because you don't want it to sound too casual, like it is a novel and well-written sentences and stuff like that.
I'm a good writer.
But that helped a lot to just sort of like frame like when and how he was telling the story.
Now I'm thinking of this. Stand By Me wasn't the title of Stephen King's short story. What was the title?
I think it was The Body.
The Body.
Yeah.
This one. That was going to bother me.
Yeah.
Until I Googled it later.
No, Stephen King's definitely a lot of coming of age.
Sure.
From the adult perspective.
Sure. And if anyone listening wants to write, if you don't have his book on writing on your shelf or opened on your desk, you should fix that today. It's a great book.
Yeah.
I don't know what it says about me that I related pretty hard to Rennie, this sort of like old, grizzled, a little reclusive, world-weary philosophizer. Mm-hmm. That's how I would love to think of myself. And for folks listening, again, who haven't read the book yet, he's this like, I sort of saw him as an Obi-Wan Kenobi type, but yeah, he befriends Jack, and there's something about him. And also I want a Ford pickup truck so badly. We were looking for a second car a couple of years ago, and I was making a case with my wife that I'm like, what if it's time for us to get a pickup? I think it's time. We moved to the country. We used to live in the city. We now live in the country. I think we need a pickup, but she wasn't having it.
That's cool.
Which
he was
right.
a fun. Yeah, he was a fun character to write because like you said, he's sort of. I mean, I definitely relate to him too. It's just like I'm going to go out in the woods and just live in a cabin somewhere and write.
I swear.
But
I would love it.
But he has his own issues. It's not like his life is perfect either. So I mean, that was the kind of core. Jack has his relationships with his friends in the book, but he also like kind of the core relationship is this kind of mentor figure that he meets. And Jack thinks he's sort of like running away from his problems by hanging out with this guy in the woods, and he's got a bunker ready to go. They hang out in there for a while. Jack's trying to escape his problems and sort of realizes like even locking himself away in a bunker, like the stuff catches up to you, and
it's still in your head.
Has to face it.
For better or worse. We're going to talk a little bit more about complex themes in storytelling in a minute, but I wanted to talk a little bit about how surprised I was that this was self-published. As I understand it, a literary agent told you that they couldn't represent you / your book because they felt the book didn't have enough commercial appeal. They didn't know how to sell it. Yeah. Is that true?
Yeah. But not, honestly, I wasn't that surprised.
I mean,
just the way, things are in publishing and TV and stuff now. It's like, they just want the big hook and the big ideas. And it's funny because like the whole reason this was just sort of a secret side project for many years, starting in 2019. I've always loved writing, and I still have aspirations to like be able to make a career, a living off of just writing books.
Right.
That hasn't happened yet, but so it's kind of like my day job is to come up with the big ideas, big things for TV and movies and publishing stuff related to Avatar. And so I know I can do that stuff. It's just like, this was like, I want to write the thing that even when I was writing, I was like, I don't know who's going to buy this thing, but that wasn't kind of my end goal. It was just to write the story and kind of hone my craft more, and do something that deliberately was different than the things I'm known for. So it's not, it's not a fantasy book. It has no magic in it. Very little action.
Right.
But at the same time, I think I did take my experience and knowledge of how to tell these bigger stories and, stories for TV where you're got to move the plot along and stuff and try to apply it to a more personal, introspective story. So, one great compliment I've gotten from people is like, oh, once I started it was, I didn't want to put it down, or I wanted to keep finding out what happens next, which is what you want from a story, even if it is a more philosophical, introspective type story. Like, even I will get bored if I'm reading a novel where it's just like sort of pontificating for pages and pages and pages.
A little navel gazing or something.
So
yeah,
I
guess I could see that. I don't know. I worked in publishing for a long time, and I like to think that I know how it works. And I do wonder, you started writing this in 2019. It was published in 2024. So published after the pandemic, written before the pandemic and into it. I do wonder if you had waited 3 more years, if you had pitched this to agents in 2022 or 3, I think it would have been different because nowadays publishing is very much focusing on mental health, on these more complex themes in books for kids.
Yeah, no, it's true. Well, that was actually, I didn't pitch it in 2019 because I was just secretly working on it. Nobody knew it existed. So this was probably early 2023. And yeah, I had the same thought. I was like, I wasn't expecting it to be like, blockbuster book or anything, but I'm like, I could look through the bookstore and find very similar, John Green books,
right.
Those kind of authors, like I said, Catcher in the Rye. It's not the biggest genre, but there are examples out there of these type of books dealing with, loss and mental health and grief and stuff. So I think there is a spot for them on the bookshelf. So with this stuff, it's all timing. It's all, did you contact the right agent at the right time? And exactly what, like we always tell the story with Avatar. If we had pitched that 6 months later, it probably wouldn't have gotten picked up. It was just, we had the right executive at the right time. Nickelodeon was looking for a show like this, action adventure kind of show. And so like things just sort of aligned in a good way.
Yeah.
And the thing I love about publishing is like, this book is out there now. Like it doesn't, there's a lot of stories too about books that like they'll sell a few copies here and there for a few years. And then someone starts talking about it and other people hear about it. And so that's why I'm doing podcasts like this. Just tell people about it. Hopefully people will be interested and check it out.
I thought it was because you just wanted to be on my podcast.
Well, that too, of course.
Yeah. What did you find most challenging about self-publishing? I mean, I know there were probably half dozen challenges, but what would be the most surprising maybe or frustrating or difficult?
I mean, the most frustrating thing is the marketing part, because it's like, I can do the creative part. I mean, it's always any creative project is challenging, and you have days where it's like, yeah, this is great. Days where you're like, this is terrible. Why am I doing this? But once I finally got it done, like I hired an editor. Like I did all the things that like to make it professional, like hired someone to do the book cover or design the book cover and, copy edit, make it as professional as I would put this against any book you would find on the bookshelf.
Well,
but the other piece of it is, the other piece of it, and I think this was partly what that agent was referring to, is like, how do you then sell it? You can get it on my website or you can get it through Amazon. I kind of started small because I had to sort of like learn the process of even just like putting a book out there. So I think over this next year, I'm going to start going more wide with it and putting it in more places so people have more options for where they can get it. But yeah, the marketing part is hard because you're putting in your own money to market it. If you're not getting, you're not at least like, my goal is that I'm not expecting this to like set up my retirement or anything, but I'm like, if I just don't lose money, I'll be happy. Like if it's a kind of break even situation, I'm cool with that. But even that it's hard to I've not reached that point yet.
Yeah. It takes a minute. And I just wanted to shout out to the book designer. His name's Stuart. Is it Stuart Bache?
Yeah. In England.
It's a good cover. And what I like about the cover, and this is something that I need to get Paul Buckley onto the podcast one of these days. And I used to do a lot of YA covers myself. One of the things you try to do with a cover is you want it to be essentially 3 different things depending on your relationship with the book. So the first thing is essentially a poster. You look at it and go, ooh, that's interesting. What's that? The second thing is a companion. So as you're reading it, you occasionally glance at the cover, and the more you look at it and the more you read, the more you start understanding what the cover's about. And then the last thing is you want it to be essentially like a token, sort of a souvenir of your experience reading that book, So anyway, nice job, Stuart.
Yeah, that was a great experience because I had never personally, like I've worked with obviously lots of other artists over the years on Avatar, but I've never, for my own personal project, I've never like had to hire a designer and found him. And he was great. Like he gave me couple concepts, and that was one of them. And I was like, it has an emotional. As soon as I saw it, I was like, "Ooh, I feel something." And I think that's the interesting thing about book. Like, I love looking at book covers, and it's just like, I think sometimes they can be too literal, especially like sometimes in fantasy books or maybe romance books. But that's why I love like literary novel covers, because it's like you don't always know what's going on, but if it's done right, like it gives you either uneasy feeling or intriguing or mysterious, and you want to check out.
The cover of The Great Gatsby is a perfect example of that. Like, you look at it at first, and if you don't know what the story is about, you kind of don't even know what the hell that cover is about. I mean, it's pretty surreal. Right. Giant eyeball and some fair ride or something. I can't remember exactly. I have to Google that too. So coming back to the complexity of some of the themes that you've explored in this, and you weave some pretty epically complex themes in and out of this story, and in and out of Aang's and Korra's stories, like loss, like grief, shared trauma, being haunted by one's past, so on and so forth. I guess the question is, are you okay, Michael? No, I'm kidding. The question is, for anyone who creates or wants to create a book or an animated series for a young audience, it can be hard to craft a compelling and, dare I say, commercially appealing narrative with elements like depression, anxiety, rage, loss. What's your approach to finding that balance?
It's a great question. And, we've been doing this for 20 years now, and we're developing new things for Avatar and grappling with the same things, which is like, you have your external. I think it's just finding the balance between the kind of objective story, or the external plot and stuff that's going on, which is the like, this is why it's going to be exciting, the bending, the adventure, the quest, the whatever, we're going to see spirits, we're going to go into the spirit world in Korra, like all those kind of big set piece type ideas. Like that is a big part of it, obviously, especially for animation or TV and film. But then it's like, okay, well, what's the personal story? I mean, I would say like over the years when we're in story meetings, on the TV shows, like there's a lot of talk about the plot and what happens and what order should it happen in. But I would say like a majority of the time is spent like talking about the characters. Who are they? What are they going through? Why are they reacting this way? Like what's their wound in the past that's causing them to act this way now? So So it is, I think sometimes, because you get notes of like, it's got to be commercial, it's got to be whatever, like there can be a tendency to be like, oh, I got to make this like the craziest, biggest thing ever. But, as people have, I'm sure, experienced in the movies, the most dazzling, special effects, action sequence, whatever. We've seen a lot of that stuff now. So unless you have a character that you care about, that you're rooting for, that you can understand, even if you don't agree with them, like that's the stuff you emotionally connect with. So it is finding that balance between the two, because you definitely need both.
Yeah. And obviously it's artist's choice. Some artists find that writing to any one of these elements of the human condition, some artists find it healing as a way of processing whatever grief, whatever trauma, whatever they're dealing with through their art, through writing. And for some, that works. For others, they don't want to tap into their own personal experiences. It's too triggering. It's too difficult. It's too painful. But maybe they do want to still write complex characters. I can't put myself in their shoes, because for me, if I'm thinking about anything that I need to process or think about, or I don't know, walking my way through it again, I can do it. It doesn't bother me to go back to my own life and my own experiences and tap into some things that I'd rather not tap into. I'd rather just sit on the couch and watch Avatar or something. My point here is it's challenging. Is there a way around that? Maybe the answer is no.
I don't think there is, but I would just add that I think at least for like writing fiction, creating characters to process through, difficult things, like it does give you some distance. So it's different than going to see your therapist and you're like talking all about yourself and all your feelings. It can be kind of heavy and maybe you don't want to go there that day or whatever. But
right.
I've found that at least through fiction and sometimes I'm not even at least with this book, it was staring me in the face, but my dad had passed away in 2008. Kind of suddenly he had kidney cancer. So, that was over a decade before I even thought about writing this book. Mm-hmm. But the more I got into it, I was like, oh, this is part of me still processing that loss and amongst many other losses. And then as I'm revising it, COVID hits and everyone loses some people lost their lives, some people lost their schools, some people lost their homes, so in the middle of it, I'm just like, oh man, this is very relevant right now. So actually, I do remember some days during that period, because at that time too, I had two young, I have twins, boy and girl, and they were young. They were 4, I think, when it started. So we were all at home, during the lockdown phase, as I'm sure you experienced too. And so there were definitely some days where I was like, I don't really want to work on this today because it was, diving back in, because that was so fresh. We're literally living that experience. And then I'm trying to go into my office to work for a couple hours or something. So yeah, there's definitely days where you're just like, yeah, I don't feel like going there today. And I think that's fine. But I think that's what's so great about fiction in general and why I love reading novels is this ability to experience these kind of intense emotions, but there's some distance, there's some safety there. You're not literally going through it.
Right. You can put it on somebody else.
Yeah.
A character you create, put it on them, have them carry it. Yeah. I don't even know. When I go back to editing this question, I might even listen to that question and go what the hell were you talking about? Where were you going with that? I think what I'm trying to get at is there is that very common piece of advice for writers and illustrators and animators, anyone who creates stories. Write what you know. Tap into your own history. Yeah. Mine your past, however people phrase that. And generally, that's good advice. But I'm thinking of the person who doesn't want to do that. And I still don't even know where I'm going with this question, but I guess for you, and you basically answered it. But I think what I'm trying to ask you is, when you and Brian or you by yourself for this book, or you in the writer's room or wherever, are these themes front and center? Are you guys thinking we need to remember that, I'm just going to be a nerd here and say, we need to remember that Cora has gone through this very traumatic experience with Zahir's poison, which I personally interpret as a metaphor for depression. You can correct me if I'm wrong here. We need to keep that in mind. I still don't think that's the right question.
I think you're onto something, because for me, I don't know how I would write a story if I didn't know that stuff. It's really hard to just write a plot without knowing why the character needs to experience this plot.
Right. Okay. Yeah. That's kind of where I'm going with that.
When you watch or read a story that you resonate with and you feel like you went on an emotional journey, the external stuff is a little bit of smoke and mirrors. It's fun, it's exciting, you need that sort of salient sensory experience of
nice.
Your senses are
yeah, your thesaurus is on your desk right now. No, I'm just kidding.
But if you don't have that personal journey for the main character or the characters in the story, you kind of get to the end and you're like, what was the point of that?
Yeah.
Like that was, exactly. Maybe like, oh, that was fun. I had a good time, but you don't think about that story again. Maybe it doesn't really stay with you or, I think everyone's had that experience where you're just like, yeah, that was cool, but I would never think about that movie or book again. So I'm trying not to write those kind of things. I want to hopefully write things, that stick around for a while and somehow Avatar is one of those things that have stuck around and people still connect with it. And over the years, I think hearing from fans and stuff, it is the characters, it is the emotional journeys. Yeah. It's like Zuko, people talk about Zuko's transformation and his character arc as being, one of the best ones they've ever seen and stuff. And so I think that's the stuff that, and they everyone loves the bending and enjoys the action and the art. And obviously it's all important. It's just that I think that emotional component is
for sure.
It's the thing you need, and it's not always easy to to get it. So that part is definitely challenging to do.
This podcast is produced by the Illustration Department, a global leader in online education for illustrators. Visit illustrationdept.com for offerings like mentorships and portfolio reviews, testimonials, our alumni showcase, our best-selling Substack, and more. That's illustrationdept.com. And now, back to our conversation. There is one episode, season 3 of Avatar, where Aang is having, I think it was called like Nightmares and Dreams or Nightmares and something.
Yep.
Aang is having anxiety dreams, like crippling anxiety dreams, a day or 2 or 3 days before he has to face Fire Lord. Who hasn't had those kinds of, who couldn't relate to that? I relate to that so hard. I have a recurring anxiety dream anytime something goes on in my life that is a little surprising in the negative, like, oh, we have to fix our car now, or there's something wrong with our car, or there's something wrong with the house. It tends to trigger these anxiety dreams. Every single time the anxiety dream is the same. Mm-hmm. Water is damaging my house in some way. And I have this like recurring anxiety dream, I would say once a month, easily. So anyway, as I was watching that episode, I was like, dude, I am feeling this so hard. Is there anything, any experience that you had, like anxiety dreams or something that was happening to you at the time or something you were feeling at the time where you come back to Brian and you're like, dude, this happened to me, or I'm feeling this right now. We definitely have to throw this into the show.
Not so much one for one, but I think that's what's always interesting about working with other writers too, because everyone has all their life. They're bringing it all to the table. So there are definitely times where people are talking about like, oh, this thing in the story I'm resonating with because something like this happened to me or someone I knew or something. So I think it's unavoidable that people just bring their personal experiences and stuff to these stories. And that's what's kind of magical about working with other writers on these shows. Like, we created the show. Many of the stories were from seeds that we had put out there, but it was because of these other writers and artists bringing their sensibilities and experiences to it that makes it really special and more diverse than what just two dudes could bring to it. Sure.
When did you graduate from RISD?
I graduated in 1996.
We overlapped. I was there in 95.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
I was in the illustration department.
So did you know Brian back then?
When did he graduate?
Because he graduated 2 years after me and he was in the illustration department.
He graduated in 98. So yeah, he was a year older than I was. We must have been passing each other in the hallway.
Yeah.
Just realizing that right now. That blows my mind a little bit. Did Avatar have its seed there, or did it happen just after?
No, not the idea. I mean, the seed of our working together started at RISD because I was making my senior animated film, and I met Brian, and he agreed to help me. He was painting backgrounds, and I got my friends to help me paint cells for animation and stuff. So even back then, I was like doing mini productions and learning how to produce stuff. So that's what I always loved about RISD was, on one sense, I didn't learn anything about how to like actually do character animation. Like they're just not.
No.
Maybe now it's different, but it was much more like fine art film or art film type school. But the thing I was talking about, which I think when I look back, I'm like, oh, I think the reason had some success in my job is because like, oh, I learned how to actually like make a film from like, not just, oh, I had the idea. It's like, okay, now you got to get people to help you make this thing. Now you got to like, how do you actually produce it? Yeah. Cutting film, like doing sound. Yep. How do you get someone to do music? So like me and my friend roommate at the time, like he was in live action. So we'd all like help each other out on everybody's projects. But that's kind of where like the seeds of my animation career certainly began. And then, after I moved to Los Angeles, I worked on Family Guy, I worked on King of the Hill, were some of my first jobs. And then Brian moved out. We worked together on those shows. And then I was like trying to develop my own stuff. He wanted to pitch stuff, and we just kind of teamed up and wanted to pitch something together. It's always, especially for people in the arts, it's good to hear like Avatar wasn't something we had for years and years from college or something. It was like kind of an assignment from Nickelodeon, because they, after meeting the executive at Nickelodeon, we found out that they were looking for a action adventure kind of show. Right. So it helped focus us in a way of like, okay, because we did have other ideas of like what we thought would be a cool show on Nickelodeon.
Can you give me one?
Yeah, it was like kids hanging out in the woods, like more of a comedy kind of thing, adventures out in the woods and stuff. So it was actually very simple, because we were like, we just want to make a show that like fun, charming stories, and then you can focus on the animation and make the animation amazing. The ironic thing we always talk about is how we made probably the most complicated show you could possibly make for animation, which is like, has effects. It's a travel show, so you're going to a new place every episode, so you have to do new designs every episode. Right. It's not very production friendly. Yeah, research.
Like your character designs can't just be like, oh, we're at this Northern Water Tribe or some town in the Earth Kingdom. Like the designs are different. The characters look different. They have to look different because they're part of a different community.
They're more realistic. You need people who can draw like anatomy. It's not just like cartoony blobs, that are more forgiving in the design.
And there has to be a level of believability in their movements, especially when they're bending or whatever.
Oh, totally. Yeah. A lot of martial arts, working with martial arts experts, so much goes into those shows. And then it's hard to find artists who can do it, like not just here, but like, then you have to actually get it animated. There's very few studios, especially nowadays, that do 2D animation. Because when we started, doing a CG television show was kind of a rare thing, right? And ours was all 2D, and we've just kept that. Like we just like that aesthetic more, and it just fits with the anime style and everything. So, but it's especially now, it's harder to find big studios that solely focus on 2D, because do a lot of 3D CG shows now.
You'd be tapped into this obviously more than me, but I just have this feeling, maybe it's more of a wish, but I wouldn't be surprised if this happens, where more animation studios or movie studios turn to 2D. Just as a, I don't know, not nostalgia, but it just feels like it's ripe. It feels like it's there. It's been resting. Yeah. It's time for us to go back to it with enhanced tools and all the technology that we have today. But that would be amazing.
Totally. Yeah.
You started off as an illustrator, right? Did you go to RISD thinking you'd be an illustrator?
I went to RISD mainly because of animation. Okay. When I started, like my freshman year of college, I went to Maryland Institute College of Art.
Hey, Baltimore.
Nice. Yeah. So I thought I was going to be like a painter or illustrator. Like I was really into like fine art painting in like high school and stuff. Uh-huh. The art side of things was great that first year, but I didn't love living in Baltimore, and I was like kind of questioning, like, do I really want to do painting. I don't know what I want to do. But I'd always loved animation, and it's sort of in my mind, I always thought, oh, you got to go to Cal Arts, to learn animation. But then, I mean, RISD had always been on my radar because I grew up in Vermont. RISD was very well known as like the art school. Mm-hmm. So I'd always sort of thought about going there. For some reason, I just decided to go to this other school my freshman year. But then when I was like rethinking everything and found out, oh, they have film and animation, that's what I want to do. Right. And it just sort of like clicked. And so I transferred. Yeah. But I took drawing classes, illustration classes, mm-hmm. And then mainly focused on like animation my like junior and senior year, because you end up you kind of focus and make your own films.
Right. Now I'm thinking I have to talk to my buddy Jim, who was my roommate, my best friend, still is. He graduated from RISD. I mentioned to him that I was going to talk to you, and he said he knew Brian. He must have bumped into Brian or somehow knew Brian. So that's one sort of weird overlap that you and I have. And now I'm just thinking, like, did you, me, Brian, my friend Jim, a bunch of us were we hanging out at the same parties? We might have. I don't know if you were.
I don't know. I didn't go to too many parties.
Okay.
So
there you go. Not. I did, especially early on, like that freshman and sophomore year, all the house parties that people were having.
Yeah.
I was there.
I remember legends of those, but
Legends.
The Fuzzy Door was a legendary
The Fuzzy Door has been mentioned many times on this podcast.
Yeah, which was Seth MacFarlane's place, who went on to create Family Guy.
Was he your grade?
He was a year ahead of me.
Okay.
So I met him, like, I think when he was a senior, but he did voices for one of my junior films. Cause I was like, I had this like silly, I don't even know what it was, but I needed some voices, and the professor was like, oh, you should talk to this guy, Seth. He's really very funny and does voices. I'm like, oh, sure. Who knew what would happen?
That's just later. Crazy, dude.
Yeah.
Another weird similarity, or another weird little parallel is I too have twins.
Oh, no way.
Yeah. How old are your twins?
They are now 8.5. Yeah. So are you?
That's a good age.
2 boys, 2 girls?
2 girls.
2 girls. Okay.
Yeah.
Identical twins or no?
No, fraternal. They could not possibly look more different than they do.
Yeah.
Which is good.
Yeah.
It'd be weird if they were.
Yeah, that's wild. People always ask, like, how do you do 2? And I was like, I don't know. Just
you don't think.
I didn't know any different. So
exactly.
They were our first and only kids. So
we had our son first, and then we had the twins.
Yeah. Okay.
And
so you knew just one kid at a time.
We were good on and we were like, and we're done. But I think if we had twins first, because we lived in a small apartment in New York City, we wanted 3. We don't know if we were ever going to get to that. So if we had twins first, we would have stayed 2 for sure.
Yeah.
Hear me out here. So I'm going to take you through a little bit of a story, you and the listener.
Okay.
So first, as an illustration historian, I noticed a few Easter eggs. They're connected to a World War II era Japanese illustrator by the name of Jun Atsushi Iwamatsu. In 1939, Iwamatsu and his wife, Tomo Sazako, fled to New York, leaving their son, Makoto, with his grandparents in Japan. Okay? So after Pearl Harbor, Iwamatsu enlisted in the U.S. Army. He worked for the Office of War Information and the Office of Strategic Services. His job was essentially to create pro-Japanese propaganda. Mm-hmm. To protect their families, Iwamatsu and Sazako changed their names to Taro and Mitsu Yashima. With the help of the OSS, Congress, I promise you guys this ties all into Avatar. With the help of the OSS, Congress passed a law called the Private Law 400 on June 29th, 1948, allowing a now 16-year-old Makoto to join his parents in the United States. Yashima went on to illustrate books, including those written by his wife. The Crow Boy, which was published in 1956, won the Caldecott. And that book was about multicultural sensitivity. So he was well ahead of his time. Both of them were. Where's the Easter egg? Makoto and his sister Momo became acclaimed actors. Among his roles, Makoto, more commonly known as Mako, was the voice of Uncle Iroh in The Last Airbender, as you know, obviously. And Momo appeared in a number of TV shows and movies, including Star Trek, the motion picture. Momo is, of course, the name of Aang's winged lemur. And Mako is also the name of one of the main characters in Korra. Michael, it is almost embarrassing how happy this all makes me, and that I had the opportunity to talk to you about that. End of story. That's
cool. I actually didn't know about his sister being an actor, too.
So was that a total coincidence? You guys just named Momo, and it just happened to be Mako's sister's name?
That is pure coincidence, because Momo, I think, means peach also.
That's incredible.
So I think that was like an super early name. And then, not until we were like casting for the show, then we had seen Mako in like a few films, and we're like, that guy would be cool. Oh. But we were very naive back then. We're like, can he audition? They're like, no, he's too famous. He won't audition. But they're like, you can offer it to him and see if he'll take it. And we're like, all right, let's see. And sure enough, he agreed to do it. And he was amazing. And then,
of course,
sadly passed away during the series. So it was like between seasons. I think we had recorded all of season 2, book 2. And then, when we went on to create Korra later, that Mako in that series was an homage to the late great Mako.
I was introduced to him, as maybe you were too, when we were kids. Conan the Destroyer with Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Right. Yeah.
He was the wizard. That's a good movie.
Yeah.
Anyone who's like, what? Just look it up. Conan the Destroyer. It's Arnold Schwarzenegger. Mako is a wizard. It's like early Final Fantasy or something. There's like a warrior, a thief, a wizard, and like another warrior. 2 other warriors, and one of the warriors is a bad guy. Anyway, it's a great movie. Everyone should watch it.
Another little Easter egg is that Dante Bosco, who played Zuko, Iroh's nephew, like we had cast them separately. We didn't know they knew each other, but they had already like played either uncle's nephew or father's son in like a bunch of other like TV and movie things before they were uncle and nephew in our show.
So speaking of father and sons.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. So you're what? You're 17, 18?
Yeah, I'm 17. I'm a senior.
Okay.
This is great. I'm a huge fan.
Awesome. Thanks.
I've been a fan for a long time. So I just have a few questions that I've been curious about. They're obviously based on Avatar and Korra, because that's what I love. So my first question, just to get right into it, is, in terms of the character writing, do you find it difficult to come up with new character arcs when there are only so many archetypes to build off of?
It is tricky, especially after doing this for a while now. I don't know. Yeah, I think when we did the original series, I don't know that it ever came up, but then we did Korra, and now we're doing new stuff, and it's always like, is that too similar to what Aang went through, or is that feels too similar to what we did with Zuko? So it does become a challenge the more stories you tell in this world, because inevitably there's going to be some overlap with it. So it's just like trying to find like the unique angle on that particular character and how they are, I don't know, their own person or something.
I guess the good news with
does that make sense?
Yeah, that does make sense. I'm not sure if you guys have ever thought about this, but the good thing about like is what Korra went through too similar to what Aang went through is they're the same person, so their trauma would be like if they could be similar, and you could get away with it in a way.
Yeah, we do talk about that a lot, where it's like, oh, this avatar are sort of having to deal with the ramifications of what the previous avatar did, or they have similar issues because the previous avatar didn't really deal with that issue.
That's actually my favorite part of it.
Yeah, so that part is kind of a deliberate connection, I guess, between the avatars, but then it's still like, I mean, that's why we made Korra like older, a girl, wanted to fight. Like, we're just like, let's make her as different as possible, like personality wise, from what Aang was.
Yeah, that's the thing. She was very skilled in the physical side of bending, while Aang was skilled in the spiritual side. And that was kind of the whole point. Like, he had to learn to be more physical and angry, and she had to learn to be more peaceful and calm.
Yep. You got it.
They kind of like opposite arcs, which I do really like. Are you going to find a way to like connect the next, like, you don't have to talk about it, but would you find a way to connect the next Avatar's arc to theirs?
Oh, it's gonna all be connected. You'll see.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's connections for sure.
I'm excited.
From the new stuff, yeah.
Is there a character arc from the original show or from Korra that you'd want to do differently? Or not even character arc, just something you'd like today look back on and say, we could have done that differently?
Not so much with the writing, but there are episodes like the art didn't quite come out as great as we had hoped, or like the animation's kind of like because we used different animation studios doing different episodes, and there was one particular animation studio that was awesome and their episodes always looked amazing, and then there was like another studio that like was kind of hit or miss. So
did the really great animation studio make the Zuko Azula fight? Because that's my favorite.
Yeah, they worked. They did like the finale episodes. Yeah, like all that fire animation that was
really good animation.
Yeah,
that was my favorite.
Totally.
I watch the shows a lot, and they're pretty perfect. Every episode kind of looks amazing, and the animation is very consistent. So I'm shocked to hear that you.
Oh, that's cool. I mean, I think that's good because like people who don't, aren't as steeped in it, it does, I think, hold together for them as like it's all sort of like one thing. So that's good that the audience is not noticing as much of those differences as we do. But I mean, it's inevitable when the person who's like working on it every day, you see every stage of the process, and like, oh, that could have been so much better, or like, we ran out of time. And
yeah, if you make it, you're just kind of saying like,
okay.
Oh my God, we made that mistake there. And
yeah.
I've been curious to find this out. The animation style has remained pretty consistent between Avatar and Korra. Like, it has the kind of same style. Would you ever adopt a different animation style for a different project?
I mean, everything's going to be anime inspired, so it kind of comes down to more like complexity of characters, because like actually like the Korra characters are more realistic and harder in some ways, harder to draw because they are more, I guess, realistic is the only word I can think of right now. More detailed, there's more detail. So it's, in animation, like there's a lot of talk about like, oh, is there too many like details in the clothing or something? Because someone's got to draw that every frame. So the more you can simplify designs and stuff, the better. So it's more about like levels of detail, I would say, rather than like totally doing a different style. The style always sort of evolves based on like who the artists are, or the studios working on it.
Gotcha. Because I know like Korra had, I'm not sure what it was. It was like a sweater around her waist, or what was that?
Her little like skirt thing.
Thing, like, and Aang didn't really, the only like fluid parts of Aang's clothing were the like top of his robes.
Yeah.
And then I'm sure
that's another factor is like,
animate.
Yeah, if there's clothes moving around, like if there's wind effects, if there's, it's...
Yeah. Was there a conscious effort to make the themes in Korra darker, more like adult? And if so, was that an attempt to relate to the audience aging up a bit, or is that an attempt to differentiate the shows?
A little bit of all of the above. I mean, we definitely... we were thinking of it more like, oh, Aang's kind of like middle grade and Korra's like YA. Since we age her up to more teenager, it just sort of naturally happened that some of the stuff got a little more
darker,
serious and darker and stuff.
So it's kind of like Aang had the emotions of a younger kid, so he kind of the show was like more. It had dark themes, but it was still taken from the viewpoint of a younger kid, and Korra was older.
Yeah.
Okay, I get it.
And I think we could never have like made Korra first. Like Nickelodeon would never have. Even when we made that show, they were like, "What do we do with the show?" Because it didn't quite fit their kid audience. Because it was like a lot of teenagers were watching it, and it was doing well, but like for their demographics, they were like, we want the younger kids. We don't want teenagers for whatever reason.
Yeah.
It's okay. It all worked out.
It definitely all worked out. I love both the shows. I'm really excited for the new one. that's coming out. I don't know when that's coming out, but I'm excited for it.
Yeah, we got a movie. Movie will be out maybe.
Oh yeah, the Avatar. I forgot about that.
That's going to be the first thing. So that's been announced. So
I forgot that comes out this year. Oh my gosh.
So that's going to look really good. So
I'm really excited for that one too. Thank you for talking to me. I'm a big fan.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Where are you? Are you in New York, or where do you guys live?
We are in Pennsylvania.
Oh, you're in Pennsylvania. Cool.
Thank you again.
Nice talking to you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Sure.
Has some pretty good questions. I did not help him with those. He thought of those himself.
A future podcaster right there.
Yeah, seriously. I just appreciate you taking the time to, field some of his questions there.
Yeah, no worries.
So just keeping in mind that there are folks listening who are illustrators, animators, storytellers. Maybe they want to write their own young adult book. What last word of advice or insight or encouragement would you like to share with them directly?
There's like the general advice for, not just writers, but anyone who's interested in doing creative stuff. And I would say this is kind of more for like people who have been doing it for a while, because I feel like as we get older, we might get kind of set in our ways. And so the thing is to like stay curious about stuff, whether that's like how the world works. I think this too, like it comes up because I do have young kids, and it's just like you see them, they're just asking questions about stuff all the time. They're super curious. How does this thing work? How does this, and most of the time I don't have an answer, and I had never even thought about asking that question. And I'm like, am I curious enough? Am I like, the world is a crazy place and we are crazy beings, and there's so much to understand about the world and ourselves. And I think I've been attracted to, or why I've pursued a life in art and writing and creativity, is just like, it is a way to explore and ask questions. But I do, even for myself, I feel like as I've gotten older, maybe I've lost a little bit of that like youthful, naive curiosity of like, what if I did this? What if I, like we broke so many rules when we were like making Avatar and setting up the production, that like me as the like, oh, I've done this now for a while. If someone came to me and was like, we want to do this, I would say that's too difficult. You can't do that on television budget and time. Are you insane? But we did it. So I think it's trying to recapture that youth, some of that youthful curiosity and spirit.
If you find value in this podcast, consider becoming a patron. In return, you can access bonus episodes, receive invitations to our Art Directors After Hours series, and get a 10% off discount code for all ID offerings. Become a patron by visiting patreon.com/illustrationdept. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time.